Welcome back, vinyl community. Another update for you. Some recent finds and spins, everything in between. What we're listening to, some sweet 1970s soul out of Hawaii. Society of Seven, recent thrift find. He's got all the signatures by the group on there. Album from 1978 called Fashionably Yours. Create a transformation. Talk about me and you. Let me aspire to be what you desire. I'll do anything you say. Sweet soul. Bought this blind. I swear I had seen this exact record with the signatures on the front a few months before at the same store. Didn't buy it. I'm kind of a little cautious about Hawaiian records. Saw it again and kind of looked it up on Discogs just for curiosity. Seemed to have some value to it, so I thought I'd check it out. And very nice, sweet soul. They were a 7-piece group, actually started in Asia, and had some success over there as a group called the Fabulous Echoes. Starting in 1968, they had a long-time residency at the Outrigger Waikiki Hotel in Hawaii, where I think they've maintained a show band presence ever since, and still active today with various lineup changes. But the secret ingredient on this album was the songwriting, arrangements, and productions of Teddy Randazzo. Teddy Randazzo was a singer-songwriter, started out in the very early days of rock and roll, the New York doo-wop scene, had a little bit of success regionally, then became an in-demand producer, songwriter. He worked quite closely with Little Anthony and the Imperials, for whom he co-wrote classics like Going Out of My Head, Hurt So Bad. He also did Gonna Take a Miracle for the Royalettes, which was later covered by Laura Nero. So very talented arranger, songwriter, and that touch is all over this album. Very professional vocals and very crisp production and arrangements. Just a nice album there. Only other thrift find I had recently was a jazz one, Keith Jarrett, Treasure Island. That is actually on Impulse label. Nice condition. Got to grab that when I see it. An artist I've heard about, not overly familiar with. I think this is my first record by him. 1974, kind of piano jazz, I would say, with kind of a soulful, occasionally Latinesque touch in spots. So very nice one there. Keith Jarrett. Catching up on a few recent and maybe not so recent arrivals. This is the Z Seoul Explosion. It's a reissue that came out from Daptone Records. Originally released around 1998. They put out a new edition, I think late last year, on marbled orange vinyl. It was sort of marketed as a lost Afrobeat classic at the time, but actually it was local New York players laying down some funky Afrobeat grooves. That was a cool one to grab from Daptone. Another one also from Daptone, actually, that I picked up late last year, just getting around to showing it now. Still catching up. Got about enough for one more video, and then I'm fully caught up, I think. The Shaladas, Love in the Wind. The Shaladas are 3 sons and a father, the Shalda family. The name is kind of a play on their surname, as well as the doo-wop tradition, where they would have these nonsense words used as a rhythmic accent, shalada, that kind of thing. So the father, William Shalda, was a member of a doo-wop group in New York in the early 60s called the Monterey's. Didn't really get too far. I think one of their records is fairly collectible now, 45. Had to kind of give up on music as got married, raised a family. He had 3 sons. Paul, Carmine, and William Jr. all kind of went into music as adults, but as they grew up, he instructed them all in that classic New York street corner harmonizing tradition,
And they all ended up getting, all 4 members of the Shalda family ended up adding harmony vocals to Charles Bradley's Victim of Love and some of his earlier releases. A couple of the brothers were also in his band. And it was at that time that Charles Bradley's producer Thomas Brennick took notice of their unique harmonies, the family harmonies. They'd grown up making music together, of course. There's sort of that uncanny synchronicity you get when family members make music together. And he decided to focus on them as a group. So this is kind of a doo-wop revivalism with the classic soul that Daptone specializes in. Also some splashes of rock and roll, some kind of Stonesy rock, a bit of little touch of psych even there, here and there. But basically those glorious doo-wop harmonies. Check out one song on here. I would say make it Do What. Love that one. And just glorious harmonies, beautiful songs, beautiful arrangements. The Shaladas. Check it out. Another recent release from the UK jazz scene, which has been exploding the last couple of years. Maisha, There Is a Place. This is on Brownswood Records. Brownswood Recordings. It's got Nubia Garcia on sax on here. It's a group, quite a large group, led by Jake Long on drums. There they are there. UK spiritual jazz again. Kind of starts out with this big widescreen cinematic flourish like the you would be familiar with from the Kamasi Washington albums, but then goes off in kind of a different direction. There's almost kind of 2 sides to this this album, with kind of mythic titles like Osiris, which kind of seems like a nightmarish almost travel through the underworld or the forest, is the sense I get of it. Kind of almost a 12-minute tune. And then there's a couple of other songs which have this very airy, kind of Eastern, very spiritual feel. It's almost kind of yin and yang, heaven and hell alternation going on in this album. But very nicely played, very nice album. Glad to grab that one. Still grabbing a couple more of the recent Record Store Day releases. Twink, Think Pink. It's an album I hadn't really heard of before the Record Store Day reissue, which comes as a double LP on pink vinyl. 2 mixes of the album. There was one that the artist, Twink, wasn't too happy with, and then they came up with a second mix. And this comes with a certificate signed by him. There we go, Twink. He's actually around on Instagram. He follows me on there. Seems to be him personally too. So been promoting this reissue. Experimental UK psych. There's some instrumental passages which are basically kind of psychedelic soundscapes and some more out there screamy type of stuff. This is not your peace and love San Francisco psych. This is dark elves and weird things going on in the forests, the ancient forests. Pretty cool stuff. Nice to add that. Also grabbed this one, haven't listened to it yet. Where the Action Is. This is selections from a CD box set that came out, which I actually bought back then. Where the Action Is, different cover. But 4 CD box set that came out on Rhino in 2009. I bought it around then. Probably hadn't even heard of the vinyl community by then, if it was still around then, or had started by then. But for Record Store Day this year, they put out kind of a selection of tracks, abridged selection of tracks from that. I was actually kind of eyeing this. It was kind of one of the expensive ones. Then I came back about a week later, and they marked it down to almost half price. So I had to grab it. Actually, where I got that one, just a couple of blocks down the road, there's a shop, a record stop that kind of focuses on world music, basically anything but your standard rock meat and potatoes fare. Don't usually find a whole lot there. It's kind of a small shop, but they did have a bit of reggae in there, which I ended up picking up, and a few unusual ones. Junior Brammer, Hold Your Corner on the Live and Learn label from 1987. He was started out as a DJ or rapper in the 1970s, better known as Trinity. Had a big hit with a song called 3-Piece Suit and Ting. But for this 1987 album, he came out as a singer, kind of in the Dennis Brown vocal tradition, and actually acquits himself pretty well. Some of these DJs, when they switch to singing, don't do that well, but pretty good album from there. I'll put links to the songs in the comments. Definitely check out the title track of that one. One of the very early DJs, pioneers, was Dennis Al Capone. Started out kind of the late 60s, very early 70s, along with U-Roy. This is a neat compilation from him that appeared in the 1980s on the Trojan label. Classic Trojan label. 1988 or 89 on this one, I think. Compilation of early 70s sides put together by Steve Barrow, founder of Blood and Fire Records, who does all the liner notes. Very nice comp of Dennis Al Capone, still around, still active. I see him on Facebook every once in a while. Another compilation from the same store. They had some interesting reggae in the bins that I don't usually see. Roy Cousins presents Wambisi All-Stars. Roy Cousins was a member of a harmony group called the Royals, then moved into production of other artists. This appeared on the Heartbeat label, an American label out of Massachusetts, 1980s at some point, probably mid-80s on this one. Various artists comp, so you get the Gay Lads, Charlie Chaplin, Cornell Campbell, the Meditations, the Royals themselves, Prince Farai. I've actually done a spotlight video on Roy Cousins and the Royals. Probably haven't uploaded it at this point, but look out for that in the near future. Last one from that store, a very obscure one I'd never seen before. Bunny Lai, Give Me Love. It's a Canadian press on the S&SWSK Soul King Records. A hard name to say. Very early 80s on this one. 81, some sources say 84. I would say 81 by the sound of it. He is a singer from Jamaica, then kind of by the early 80s had moved to the UK. He's very much in the Linval Thompson sound, a much better known artist, if anyone's familiar with him. Sounds quite like him on a couple of tracks. A couple of corkers on that album. Very nice to pick up. Last one I will show today, and I will try and give you a bit of a needle drop on here. This is a 12-inch single on the Jaw Fingers label out of the UK. Brand new release. Jaw Fingers, BDF All-Stars, which is Basque Dub Federation. They've been around for quite a while. And this tune is actually co-produced by a friend of mine from the old Blood and Fire message board days. He's based out of Seattle these days. We've been trying to get together and meet in person, but so far it hasn't worked out. This actually reworks a track from a UK reggae band called Tradition. They put out a obscure dub album called Captain Ganja and the Space Patrol. It was shown a couple of times in the VC last year. There was a reissue going around. This takes one track from that and treats it to 4 different versions, getting increasingly more space dub, tripped out, but kind of a rootsy melodical instrumental on here, and co-produced by a friend of mine, with Basque Dub Federation laying down the rhythms. So I had to pick that up direct from him. His first co-production, officially. Okay guys, that's what I've got for you today. Hope you've enjoyed. Got at least one more video of new finds to share with you. So until then, peace.